All right, I am here in Tokyo, Japan, and of course I had to take the opportunity to give you a day in the life video with the iPhone 14 Pro Max, tell you why it is so useful when you're traveling. And when I did the initial concept for this video, I thought I'm gonna go into Japan blind. I'm gonna, use the iPhone 14 Pro Max, show you how it's so useful. But I quickly discovered I know nothing about Tokyo. This is my first time in the city. This is my first time in Japan in general. So there's so much to learn here in how Google Maps or Apple Maps work, how to navigate the transit system. And what I quickly discovered was, I got to take some time and I got to kind of learn how to do things fresh over here. And that's basically what happened. So we've been here for about a week now. And now that I've been here for a week, I feel like I have a better understanding on how to navigate this city and how to use the iPhone 14 Pro Max for travel. But of course, all this stuff is kind of useless if your data plan does not work in another country. And let me tell you, even if your data plan does work in another country, it is very, very expensive. So you need a better solution. And if you have an iPhone 14, you don't have a physical SIM card tray, which means you need to use an eSIM. And the best eSIM store at the most affordable rate powering this entire trip is Airalo. Airalo offers eSIM data packs for over 200 countries and regions, and of course they have a Japan eSIM ready to go with multiple low-cost options that start at less than $5. My network carrier wanted me to pay $10 a day on my trip just to access data, and if your carrier doesn't offer international plans, you could be stuck with a huge bill and incur massive roaming fees. I was actually blown away with how easy setup was for getting an international eSIM. All I had to do was open up the Airalo app, pick the country I was visiting, select the amount of data I wanted, and with a few short taps, my eSIM was installed and ready to be used, and within a few moments, I was getting full LTE coverage in Japan. Coverage was fast and stable throughout my trip, letting me access all of my social media to post photos and videos of my trip, stay in contact with my friends and family, use translation apps, and navigate Tokyo's trains. Like, I'd literally be lost without my data service in Japan. I could not rely on Wi-Fi alone. Airalo also makes it super easy to keep track of how much data you're using. They even offer a widget on the iPhone 14 Pro so I can see how much data I have remaining. And if you use up your data, Airalo makes it super simple to get a new eSIM or top up your eSIM with even more data for your trip. Honestly, if you're planning a trip and looking for data, Airalo is the simplest choice. If you want to learn more, make sure you check out the link in the description. Thank you, Airalo, for not only sponsoring this video, but for powering my entire trip to Japan. Tokyo, it's always so busy, and like the mornings, there's not like too much open in terms to eat, but the thing that like everyone does is they go to like a Japanese convenience store. They call them like a kombini, and that's where I'm going to get my breakfast before we head out to Akihabara. So you can kind of come explore with me in the Japanese convenience store. It's really cool. If you're from America, you're probably wondering why I would get my breakfast from a convenience store, but in Japan, there are so many options, and sometimes healthy options like rice balls to sushi, and also some really tasty sandwiches and full-on meals that are really inexpensive. Now, I know this video is primarily targeted at the iPhone 14 Pro Max, but iOS itself has evolved a lot over the years, and I feel like the personal customization within the iOS platform is at an all-time high, especially with recent additions in iOS 15 and iOS 16. One of my favorite little tips for planning a trip is to set up your own customizable page with frequently used apps and widgets. Back home, I wouldn't need quick access to a lot of these apps, and I wouldn't want them taking up a page on my home screen, but here in Japan, they have become daily, sometimes hourly essentials that I would be unable to navigate Tokyo without. So for my app page, I have, of course, our sponsor Airalo in the top left telling me how much data I have left on my eSIM plan. Of course, there's also two really useful widgets for this occasion, which is Google Maps and Google Translate, which offers really helpful shortcut buttons for translation from English to Japanese, activating the camera to take live translation of Japanese text, and the conversation feature if I really do get lost in translation. Follow followed by my most frequently used apps in the top right, with 2 messaging apps that my friends frequently use, Discord for big group messages and planning, and the Line messaging app, Japan's most popular messaging app, for over 94 million Japanese users, and we've been using that a lot on our trip to stay connected with our data plans. And finally, Wonderlog, which we pretty much planned our entire itinerary on for this trip for the entire week. Not only does this give me a clean list of my daily activities, but it also lets you view store hours, reviews, phone numbers, a complete map breakdown of where these locations are, and for me, which I obviously need, quick access to directions. Speaking of which, the time has come to head to our first location of the day in Akihabara, which is also known as Electric Town, a fitting location for a day in the life video about an iPhone 14 Pro Max, if I do say so myself. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I am. So with a quick look at Google Maps, it's time to find the train into Akihabara. While back home, I'm normally an Apple Maps user. I really like Apple Maps. The advice I got in Japan is that Google Maps is the superior service to use, and for the most case, I found that advice to be pretty solid. So it's been the mapping service I've been using the most. And it's offered a lot of helpful things like walking directions, and I really did need that because obviously, without it, I would have no idea where I'm going. In Tokyo, another necessity to use are transit cards. It seems like everyone here travels by train, and as someone who lives near New York City, Tokyo, Japan had way less cars driving in the city than I was personally used to. Now, while there are payment stations that give you these physical cards, as an iPhone user, you can actually just add these transit cards directly to your iPhone's wallet and then use tap to pay on your phone rather than use a physical card. Google and Apple Maps have been essential tools on this trip and made navigating Tokyo's train system easy, telling me not only which train to board, but for the fastest route, and also the exact number of stops I would need, and also letting me follow the train route directly every step of the way. Morning trains are quiet though, so it's a great time to check on Twitter and Instagram and catch up on what everyone is up to back home. It was time to go to our first destination in Akihabara, the Tamashii Nation store. For those of you that don't know, Tamashii Nations is basically a high-quality figure maker who make figures for a ton of anime shows, but also for Marvel and things like Star Wars. Back home, I usually shop online, and I have a lot of these figures imported for my Dragon Ball Z figure collection. I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan, so it was really cool to actually visit this store and see a lot of these figures up close. Most of them are in the pre-order stage, so very few of them were actually available for purchase, but I did make some mental notes on which ones I wanted to pre-order when I got back home. Still, I had to part with some sort of souvenir, so I decided to purchase this newly released Super Saiyan Vegeta figure. One of the confusing parts about visiting Tokyo, though, is sometimes they do have what looks like tap to pay or Apple Pay systems in the store, but then you come to find out when you tap your phone to the payment system that's not what it's for. It's actually for exclusive points or local cards that you have to use, and it's actually not a credit card terminal. So my attempt at using Apple Pay for this video embarrassingly failed for this transaction, and I had to pay in cash. Heading over to Hard Off, which is supposed to have like a bunch of like old vintage tech. I think Luke Miani featured in the video, and he told me to check it out, so shout outs to Luke Miani. That's the first and last time you're ever gonna hear me say that, but yeah, I'm gonna definitely go check out this store, and I don't know, I'm hoping to find like some really old like Mac stuff, so hopefully they have it there. What a store this is. There's so much cool stuff here. Look at this, you got like, I don't know how to explain it. There's just like sound bars, audio equipment, VCRs, laser discs. You got like really high-end speakers and everything. You got like computer monitors everywhere. We got a nice little studio display on discount. Very nice. If I didn't have to fly back home, maybe I would buy it, but I have to fly back home, so I can't buy it. Oh, they got IMAX. Look at all these iMacs. So these are 2015. This is a 2017 5K. The oldest one they have, I think, is this 2012 model. They all look the same because the designs never changed on them. This is about what? $200? So not bad, I guess. Right over here in the corner, they got a trash can Mac Pro. Just a bunch of old laptops and everything. You got cassette tapes down here. Got to record on cassette. You could do it right here. HI8, 330 yen. That's a bargain. For Macintosh, you can get it right here for Macintosh. They got iPod Nanos, old iPhones, iPhone 10. They got an iPhone 13 Pro, it's not that old. They got the Super Drive, Apple TV, iPads, all tons of MacBooks. It's really cool. We should pick up like an iPod Nano. Oh, look at this! I think it's like the special Yakuza edition, right? It looks cool. I can't read, but I don't know. I think this is like a launch PS3. I don't know if it's ever been opened, but it looks like in great condition. 29,000 yen would be, what? About like $300? That's not bad. PS3 for $300, the only system you could play Metal Gear Solid 4 on? I'd buy that. I'd buy that in an instant. I'd buy that in an instant. Shopping in Hardoff's junk section can be really hard if you don't understand Japanese. Sorry for that pun. But there are so many tags and labels describing what is wrong with these products that are for sale. This is where the iPhone 14 Pro Max came in handy because I was able to use the camera feature for Google Translate and translate the labels on every product, and I was able to learn what was wrong with each product that was available for sale. There was so much exploring, and there was multiple hard-on locations to go to, and it was exhausting. I had to take a bit of a rest and catch my breath, and I wanted to see how my iPhone was holding up, and I noticed that my battery was starting to wear down, and we still have a pretty active night ahead. So I'm kind of tempted to put my iPhone 14 Pro Max into low power mode, but because I brought my MagSafe battery pack, I'm going to ignore that advice for now. If you're wondering why my battery on my 14 Pro Max is so low already, well, I have 3 words for you. Camera, camera, camera. Yeah, I have taken so many photos, and a lot of the video footage you're seeing in this video was taken on the 14 Pro Max, so it has drained the battery significantly. And it highlights just how much I use my iPhone for content creation. And not just with the rear camera. One of the things I said initially, way back with my 14 Pro Max review, was that the camera system was versatile, not only for the rear-facing camera, but with the new front-facing camera as well, which now has autofocus, and it has a pretty big upgrade because of that autofocus for video taking capabilities. I've used the front-facing camera so much in this day in the life already, and with good lighting, it really does give you some nice 4K video footage. It's just a level of storytelling that feels more personal, more run and gun than sometimes getting out that big camera. And it's something I've been trying to implement more in my own videos for that kind of personal taste. This tastes amazing. It's gonna be hard to go back. It's gonna be hard to go back. Break time's over. Now, one thing I've been craving this entire trip is a good sushi dinner, and that still has not happened. So I made some last-minute reservations for a sushi omakase and added that to my Wonder Log. This reservation is in Ginza, that is a different district than Akihabara, so we'll have to jump back on the train later tonight, and we need about a good 20 to 30 minutes to get there. Heading over to Super Potato now, supposed to have like a bunch of games and stuff, some arcades. It sounds really cool, really excited to check it out. No, it's not a store that sells giant potatoes. Super Potato is a retro video game store with a huge selection of older console games from the Nintendo Famicom to the PlayStation 1, the Sega Saturn, N64, all those old school consoles, and so much more. The selection of old Japanese games here were insane. There were so many games, some I've literally never heard of, and they even had a lot of older secondhand consoles for sale that back in America, I feel are way harder to stumble across. This place felt more like a museum to retro gaming than a store itself, but rest assured, you can buy everything here. One floor even had a bunch of older arcade machines set up to really capture that old school vibe, But like most shops in Tokyo, the place was just as big as it needed to be. By American standards, it was really cramped in there. It also meant that while recording in the store, I was able to utilize a tool that I normally don't use in my iPhone 14 Pro Max's camera, the ultra wide angle lens. Yeah, I normally don't use this lens because optically its image quality just isn't as good as the main wide angle lens, but you come to appreciate it more when you're forced into situations where you literally need the ultra wide to kind of film and show off these tight spaces. And it's kind of interesting, even like 7 or 8 months after the iPhone 14 Pro Max has been out, I'm still finding new ways to use the camera system on this phone. Sometimes you don't really appreciate the tool for the job until you need it, and I am thankful for this ultra wide camera system on my trip. Okay, I had to get away from the busy crowds in Akihabara because it is hectic over in the main squares and everything. So many cool places we explored today. It was tons of fun. But after taking so many photos and videos too with the iPhone 14 Pro Max's camera system, this thing for battery life, I mean, listen, we talk about these things with battery life and how great they are. And when I do my initial videos, I always talk about like, yeah, this thing will last me through a day, no problem. You know, I could probably go through a normal regular day with 40% of the charge left, but it's not a normal day. You're on vacation, you're using cellular data in another country, you're using, you know, data roaming, you're taking photos and videos all day long, way more than you normally would on a normal day. If you're outside and it's, you know, a nice spring day and the sun's glaring down, your brightness is probably on max. So even though our phones have like great battery life nowadays, still, it can't really stand the test of time from a vacation. Now, I was up at 6 a.m., which is kind of early, but it is halfway through the day at 5:30, and we did use a little bit of low power mode as well, and the battery is at 10%. So don't expect any miracles, right? Like when you're on a vacation, it's always smart to bring a battery pack. I choose the MagSafe battery pack, and we got to top off, right? So we got to plug that on there. Get a charge in, day in the life. We need more juice because we got the sushi reservation at 7. Again, I cannot navigate my way through Tokyo without a phone. So if this thing died on me, I feel like I would be stranded here. Battery's getting charged up, but we got a train to catch. We got to go to Ginza, which is a totally different part of Tokyo. We got to make that sushi reservation at 7. So I got to go. I'll see you there. Before leaving Akihabara, we had about an hour or so to spare, so of course I did what I've been using my iPhone so much for on this trip, taking photos. Yeah, it's true, when you're on a trip, you take more photos than you're used to in your daily life. And I was constantly blown away by the level of photos I was able to get on my 14 Pro Max. Over 8 months after this phone has been released, these photos have really stood the test of time. Whether that was using the main wide-angle camera, the 2x mode, the 3x mode, or utilizing the full 48-megapixel sensor readout with Apple's Pro RAW mode, the camera system rarely failed to disappoint me. And it really hits you when traveling just how important these photos are, and even though I am traveling with a bigger and theoretically better camera system, there's nothing as quick and lightweight as a phone camera system. It also makes sharing those photos so easy. It was important to me that I could stay in touch with my friends and family, and also everyone watching this video back home, by being able to quickly share my photos to Twitter or Instagram. Something that with a bigger camera system, I gotta be honest, those photos would probably live on my SD card for months before I did anything with them, and I probably wouldn't even post them at all on Twitter or Instagram, because when it's been like a long time, it doesn't feel as impactful. When you're in the moment, when you take that picture, when you find a cool spot, sharing that out and getting that out instantly to the rest of the world, it's just magic. I can't state it enough. The camera system on your phone is very important, and the sheer amount of photos I have taken on my iPhone 14 Pro Max during this trip, visiting so many parts of Tokyo, are something that I will, in all likelihood, cherish for a lifetime. And that's just something you really can't put a price on. Just got off the train, super excited to get some sushi. I am so hungry. It's gonna be good, but
this iPhone camera system has been so versatile. We've been taking pictures with it and video all day long, obviously, but you know, it's just like setting up for just even these shots where it's like I'm by myself and it's you know, just front-facing camera, me, you, very intimate. You can almost see my nose. Sorry about that. But yeah, so I don't know. It's cool. Like it's a cool city.
Now, this was my first time doing an omakase dining experience, and what an experience it was. Basically, you get to sit at the counter, interact with the chef, and sometimes he's literally handing you food hand to hand. It was such a unique and personal experience, and also the food was just downright delicious. It was amazing. Some of the most flavorful food I have ever tasted. I literally tasted new flavors at this place that I've never had before, and that's weird to say. Now, while in a normal day in the life video, I would highlight the iPhone 14 Pro Max and tell you how I took, time to check my phone for work emails or browse mindlessly through social media or watch something on YouTube. Thanks for all of you still watching, by the way. This time it's different. Besides the photos I took of my food, I rarely interact with my iPhone at all, if I'm being honest. And it was a key takeaway from this trip. I've been spending too much time on my phone recently, and while it may not be in my best interest as a tech reviewer to tell you to spend less time on a phone, especially in a day in the life video, I've been thinking a lot recently about Tim Cook's quote where he said, "My philosophy is, if you're looking at the phone more than you're looking in somebody's eyes, you're doing something wrong." And I am frequently guilty of being on the phone, even in the presence of my friends and family. And during the normal day-to-day grind, you don't realize how much you're on your phone. Taking a trip like this can breathe new perspective into those habits, though. And it's a reminder to live more in the moment rather than with your head constantly buried into a screen. But that doesn't mean the phone is evil. It doesn't mean that the phone is incapable of connecting us to the outside world, because if there's one thing I hope to accomplish with this video, it's showing the benefits of the iPhone when traveling and how even though you can get absorbed into it, it can also be a powerful tool for communication. I know only a handful of basic Japanese words, and the idea of navigating through a country where you don't know the language is intimidating, if not downright scary. Using the iPhone 14 Pro to get directions, translate a menu, or even a full conversation didn't separate my connection to the world. It enhanced it. I honestly don't think I would have had as good of a time during this trip without my iPhone and the powerful tools it enabled. Not just to mention all the photos I was able to capture on my trip. And not just photos of good food or amazing street scenery or really cool architecture, but of the fun times I had with my friends. Something I will cherish for a lifetime, and that really is where the beauty of the smartphone is. It's all about balance, and hopefully I was able to balance in this video, showing you how I use my iPhone 14 Pro Max for traveling in Japan, but also showing you the good times I had even when I wasn't using it. So that was my day in the life in Tokyo, Japan. Truly an amazing city with amazing people and food, and as a parting message, I want to say, especially to my younger audience, get out there and travel somewhere new. I feel like I've gained such a new perspective on things that it is really going to impact me for the rest of my life, and I encourage you to get out there and travel. Also, let me know what you thought of this video. Obviously, this is very different than the normal videos on this channel, so do you like them? Would you like to see another trip somewhere? And where should I visit next? Also, as always, if you like the video, drop me a like. If you want to see more, make sure you're subscribed. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.